Well, hello, everybody. It's my honor today to introduce you to KeKe Cribs, who is an exhibiting artist with us for the month of August, along with Janice Miltenberger and Cynthia Toops. And we're talking to KeKe today to learn more about her work and process and inspirations. And I'll just turn it over to you right away and ask you to give us a little bit of a background and history and how you got to
you have 3 hours.
Sure.
Lifetime. I don't actually know where to start with that, except that I moved to Whidbey Island around 1984 after going up to Pilchuck, and I moved here from New Mexico, and I was accidentally trying to be a glass artist. I'd had an exhibition of my drawings. I was working actually in a Native American art gallery and discovered the Mimbrace Indians, a book on them with the black and white Mimbrace pottery. And I fell in love with the narrative style, the simplicity of the drawings that were almost cartoonish in the sense that they were so simple. And so they communicated so much information in this just black and white way. And so I was doing a lot of pen and ink drawing, and I started doing renditions in that style, but of contemporary Santa Fe, so skateboarders and the laundromat where I did my laundry. And I was living there as a single mom and working jobs. And that was my first show. So 1980 was my first exhibition of my drawings, and it was called Mimbrace and Moderns. And from that, some people came in, Jim and Linda Siebert, and they said, yeah, we love your drawings. If you could figure out how to get them on the glass, we'll commission you to do our entire kitchen, all the glass cabinet doors. And, I had just never thought of glass as an art material. So I went out and did some research and found out about acid paste. And I found out about doing the masking with the contact paper and, did all the cutting and did these like very intricate, they still have them, designs on the glass cabinet doors. And that was my introduction to glass. That was like, oh, there's something here to discover. And so after that, I eventually found out about sandblasting and glass blowing. And there was 3 glass blowers in New Mexico at that time. And I tried to go and work with each of them. And I ended up with at Peter Vanderland's and Mary Beth Bliss, working with them and sandblasting Mary Beth Bliss's imagery onto the bowls that Peter was blowing for her. So that was really my big introduction into sand carving and trying to set up on my own. And it wasn't until I came to Pilchuck, where I was sent to Pilchuck by a relative who said, okay, you gotta go, to this amazing place where they actually teach glass. And I didn't even realize it was a whole field. And so Pilchuck for me was just this huge introduction to the world of glass artists. And the first class I did was Klaus Moyer, and that's the first session there. And the second one was Dan Daly, and in the same summer. And then I met Dick Marquis and Thurman Statham. And because I'd come with like this handful of Murini, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to make Murini. And they happened to be teaching that session. And so I ended up, because Dick lived here on Whidbey Island, I ended up moving here. And I've been here ever since. I've found my own ways of working with the glass. And so I do what I have discovered that works for me, because I like to draw, I like to paint, and I like to sculpt, is that the vitreous enamels on glass is how I fire my colors on the glass in multiple firings and build up the color on plain float glass, on winded glass. Things that I started doing for this show, which, I really had always been a fabric, and I mean, textiles is what really excites me probably more than anything. So the whole designs on them, the decorative, I like to print. I do a lot with fabric anyway, so I do a lot of printing on it. As a painting canvas, Linen is one of the finer materials you can paint on. And so I just started for this show, deciding to go ahead and add my glass to the painted linen. And I'm like super excited about this. I've gone from the boat form to the basket form. So this is, you haven't seen this yet, but
No.
and it's
Ooh.
not done because it's going to be painted inside and putting the linen on this side, which will go all the way. So it's going to have a lot of color and texture. But it's not done yet. One more week.
Well, we're thrilled to be the springboard to this new body of work. I can't even tell you how thrilled.
Well, I feel the same way because, Deborah, you have given me that freedom. I have to say that, the last few years have been difficult, and maybe even you get to a certain age, but somehow after having an intense career, with multiple shows every year and doing sofa and, whatever's happened to the economy, et cetera, whatever things just kind of like, and suddenly you're just like floating, it's like, where'd the engine go? And so I don't know, you have given me a freedom to do this show. You just said, make whatever you want. And I think that might be the first time anybody said that to me. And so I took you at your word.
Well, that's
and I'm
great.
so grateful. I am so grateful because really I'm onto something that I'm going to continue for many, many years after this. I'm really thrilled with what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, and the way that you're using the linen and fabric, it's so different. The piece directly behind you, Catboy, you mentioned that it was a kind of a mock-up test piece for a larger version at some point later.
Yeah, well, so what I started with actually just before COVID really kicked in was actually my mom had passed away and I'd helped her do that. And that was a really intense experience to actually help someone die. And so, I don't know, it's also a very spiritual thing that happens with that. I mean, you just, I don't know that I believe in afterlife exactly or have, religious convictions especially, but somehow I felt a need to, I don't know, honor that memory a little bit or hold on to it. And so I'd actually inherited these placemats which are glass and linen, and I decided to treat them as canvases and paint them. And that was the first time I really started. I mean, I played with this for years, but I never felt it was something I could present in a gallery or something. But what I really wanted was to be able to do enormous pieces, tapestries, or to be able to do some public artworks. And so what I love with this is that it's still this flexible thing. I mean, I can roll it up and ship it. It's like got no weight to it. Which is, again, sort of part of what's happened to the economy is it's just made everything's become less accessible, more difficult to do. And so to be able to use the materials around me, from window glass to mirror to fabric, and be able to roll it up and put it in a box and send it to another country, that was actually sort of part of the technical goal behind it. So I've had these hanging in my stairwell. And every time you go by it, it's just like you catch this. I always think maybe my mom's there someplace, it's just like these little tiny bits of people and soul and me. And it's like how you think about yourself. It's like all the parts of me that make me me.
Looking at Celestina, the Moon Queen, and how tightly each piece fits next to each other piece, and the red grout line,
and there are pieces in there that are really a 1/16 of an inch in size, because when you get to her edges where because she's actually fairly narrow, so all of this fitting, and I edged every single piece of glass so that it's so smooth that you can pan her.
Yes, be covered in glass fabric, really. I mean,
Yeah, basically. I mean, I call it as in architecture, when they shingle a house or whatever, they call it a skin. So I call it a skin. But yes, you know, I'm very happy with her, and she is going to be in the show, and I'm really excited to be able to share her.
yeah,
And then there's another little figure here. It's a little older, but this is actually what I was doing. One of these is in the Museum of Northwest Art. They have a little boy dog is her brother is up there in the museum as part of their permanent collection. And this is Birdie. And so when I first started these figures, the whole idea was to be able to do one painting. So the boats that I've done in the past have the sail has the narrative part. The whole boat is the vessel that's mosaicked. And I was looking for other ways to continue to do sculptural pieces, but maybe, because they take so long, you're looking for other ways to maybe make it go a little faster. And so being able, and I like to paint. So I found other ways to continue to sculpt, I love the form, being able to paint on it and then be able to add the glass. So I have figured out all these different materials and I have a lot of freedom within it, but each one is important. I don't really use one without the other. Because when you're working with flat glass, other than just, slumping something, or if you're not blowing, and even blowing, I feel it's limited for my ideas. It's actually limited.
yeah, you definitely have a freedom in the way that you work that can't be limited by symmetry and centrifugal force and those things. The Birdie and Celestina, are the base structure made similar to how you made the boats with kind of a concrete?
Yeah, so and it's easier to just kind of bring this over and show you that, because this is still in process, it's not finished, so you can see that I've actually built up about a 1/4 inch thickness of wall using mortar and fiberglass tape like you would use for drywall. And so because of my ceramics background, I still use like a hump mold. So I'll figure out some way, even with this, I figured out a sort of an insert that I can build around that's going to support it until it hardens. And then I can pull the insert out. So same with the boat, I build it over a hump mold. I still have ceramic ones that I made. And so that's all covered in, plastic wrap and stuff, so that I've got a little bit of a pillow, because as it shrinks, you still have to be able to get it off. So, I guess the technical side of all of this actually is part of the fascination for me, is what I call the science part, is because I've had to, figure out mechanics by myself. As far as, other people may do some aspect of this, but I figured this all out on my own. So there's a lot, some trial and error, and then you figure out the good way to go forward. And that's kind of exciting because you go, I did it. I figured it out, because on the boat, there's a whole then next process that happens on this of building a whole deck. Everything has to be square in order to get the sail in there. Everything has to sit straight. So I've developed a whole technique for that as well. And I'm probably not gonna, this boat, this is huge. So I probably would only finish this if I got a commission or a museum decided that they wanted a piece, and then I would go to the trouble of going ahead and finishing the deck and doing a really large sale for it.
Are you using actual gold leaf in these recent pieces, or is it a mixture of types of material?
So I used to use a lot of gold leaf. Right now it's kind of not as accessible. Yeah. So I've actually figured out other ways. I'm actually using some fabulous paints, and figured out some different mixtures of things that I'm using that I'm probably not going to share exactly because it took too long to figure it out. But I actually could get this to look so that it actually really has a lot of I don't know, the glass is so reflective, you're not gonna see so much of the gold, but when you come to the gallery, you go. It looks like it's made out of gold to me. I mean, I'm like really thrilled with how reflective it actually is. So, and it's like building up on these with the torn linen. I'm like, you see it, but I don't know if you even know what reticulation is, but in metalsmithing, it's a way of heating the surface of the metal to a melting point, and then it actually will wrinkle as the harder parts come to the top. And so I'm sort of emulating that with the torn linen, is the reticulation and then the bezeling of the jewels. I guess with these, part of it is that when I cut up the paintings, they become little paintings. It's like picture jasper or something like that. It's like, you know, when I do a whole skin, you're seeing the skin and you're seeing then what happens with that, like with the patterning. But when you actually capture each little piece of glass, you see it individually. For me, they're like meditation pieces. Like I have these hanging all over the house. I took them down to have them photographed when I really miss them. Like, I have to take them to the gallery. Somebody else is going to get it. Oh no, I have to make myself some more, because they change your space. They change how you feel about how you're living within your space, and they're very meditative. You know, you can sit and look at it for ages and not necessarily have thoughts in your head, but just enjoy it. Because I think, you know, even on all of, I mean, I've always done figures, and I've always done, you know, the man inside the man, as I used to call it. And it really always is about the inner self and the part of yourself that you don't necessarily expose, or the part you want to protect, or the, you know, when you put on your flamboyant thing, are you that person, or is that the part that's covering up the other part? You know, so I'm always fascinated with fashion and how people, you know, present themselves and what it is that they, you know, feel less confident perhaps about exposing. So I think that's, in some aspect of that, has been in the work forever. You know, it's kind of like the emotional reason I make it, I guess.
I feel that kind of sense of spirit in your work too. And
No,
didn't make that connection until now with you talking about it.
oh, that pleases me, because you know, I would hope that a person, even if they're not conscious of it, that is something that, you know, they feel when they're with the work, whether they own it or not, whether they simply see it and don't even think about it, but that there's a moment, you know, it's a breath. Thank you, Deborah, so much. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the show all together with my other mates. I think it'll be a gorgeous show, and very sparkly.
Yes. Thank you, KeKe.
Be sure not to miss Illuminations, featuring 3 amazing artists, KeKe Krebs, Janice Miltenberger, and Cynthia Toops at Bainbridge Arts and Crafts from August 6th through August 29th.